Okay, welcome to the council meeting. We have a public hearing to start off with first. We have a public hearing to consider the rezoning of 137 West Liberty Street, part of PID number 028 19A 21 376, 083 and 084, from a PF Public Facilities to a C2 Central Business, with a condition that the rezoning shall not be effective until the proposed subdivision creating the lot is executed and recorded with Medina County. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the rezoning? Mr. Mendel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As you said, this is a rezoning of municipal-owned property, city-owned property, that went to the Planning Commission, the City of Medina Planning Commission, September 13th of this year, with a requested rezoning of the property, as you said, from public facilities, PF, to C2 Central Business. This is in anticipation of redevelopment of the property through an RFP process with the Medina City Development Corporation. So we want to have it queued up nicely for that process. Yeah, in the packet you had everything. The Planning Commission at the September 13th meeting did recommend approval of the rezoning, and I would just ask that continues through the rest of the legislative process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in favor of the rezoning? Is there anybody that wishes to speak against the rezoning? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. So I'd like to call this November 13th, 2018 council meeting to order. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almost pulled them out from underneath you.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Coin.
Here.
Heffinger.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of October 22nd, 2018 as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved.
Second.
Discussion on the minutes. Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to council and will again meet after the Thanksgiving holiday. I think, yeah, one more before November, don't we? And we'll meet again in December, and that'll be our last one of the year. Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Properties Committee. Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, no report this evening.
Thank you. Special Legislation Committee. Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a special legislation meeting on November 1st regarding the need for equality legislation to ensure we can have equal protection for the LGBTQ residents, visitors, and workforce in Medina. We'll work through the next few months on this legislation with the administration and the folks who raised the issue in the first place. And our effort will be to work with the administration and those folks and to put together a piece of legislation that can be supported broadly, both by the community and by the elected officials and the administration and city council.
Thank you. The Streets and Sidewalks Committee, Mr. Heffinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Emerging Technology Committee, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and nothing to report.
Thank you. Requests for council action. We have many for finance. We have 18185, increase PO number 2018-000464 for core and main water. 18186, cooperative purchase of a 2019 Freightliner for the Streets Department. 18187, cooperative purchase of a 2020 Freightliner for sanitation. 18188, increase PO 18754 for Walter Haverfield for the Law Department. 18189, repeal Chapter 713, aggressive solicitation prohibited. 18190, increase PO 180454 for Protect sales for the police department. 18191, purchase of new radios for the fire department. 18192, increase PO 181727, fiscal year 16 chip grant to your construction. 18193, increase PO 171600 for fiscal year 16 chip grant to GB Hawk Construction. 18194, 2019 material bids for the service department. 18195, cooperative use agreement for Medina Twin Towers Memorial Project. 18196, North Court Street medium landscaping phase 1. 18197, contract for the Ohio Regional Development Agency CHIP grant. 18198, amend ordinance 418, Spring Grove Cemetery Columbarium Wall. 18199, final plat for South Court Village. And finally, 18200, discussion of potential quiet zones. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Wednesday, November 7th, at about 5:30 in the afternoon, we had a small ceremony to light up the North Court corridor with the new decorative lights. This has been over a 2-year project and was a great collaborative effort with the city of Medina, ODOT, and the contractor was DeJoya to create this safe and attractive corridor for our North Court commercial district. Since this project started, since the construction started, we've had many new stores, and several of the existing stores have already completed facade renovations and improvements to their buildings, which we believe is driven by this improvement to the roadway. The total cost of the overall project was approximately $31 million. The city share was about $2.7 million of that, which included the decorative street lights, the decorative mast arms, the multi-purpose trail on the west side of the road. And the remainder of that, the difference between the 3.1 and 2.7 million, was both state and federal monies through ODOT. I'd like to thank the public and the businesses for their patience during the project. On November 7th at 7 p.m., we had our annual Veterans Day concert at St. Francis Church. Went very well. The guest speaker was Representative Steve Hambley. We had probably the largest crowd we've ever had, and exceptional music from the Medina Community Band under conductor Marcus Nyman. The Candlelight Walk is scheduled for this Friday, November 16th, and the events will go through Sunday, November 18th. Ohio Magazine will also be on hand, the publisher of Ohio Magazine, to recognize the city of Medina as one of Ohio's best hometowns. The tree and downtown lighting will start at 7 p.m. on the square, and Broadway may be closed in front of the courthouses. We're still looking at whether we can maintain one lane northbound and still provide protection for the amenities that are going to be lined up on the square side of Broadway. So that's still being determined. Bicentennial events on Sunday, November 11th at 9 a.m. The square was decorated with many volunteers. A number of the high school students come out as well and made the work a lot easier. I'd like to thank all of them. November 11th at 10:45, there is a brief ceremony recognizing the end of World War I. I'd like to thank all who attended that as well, including a couple young ladies from Medina Middle School who both spoke at the event. And then on Friday, this will be the culmination of our bicentennial year. On Friday, November 30th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at United Church of Christ, they're going to have a birthday party for the city of Medina. And there's going to be games and activities. And then about 6:30, they're going to try to get 200 people out on the square in front of the courthouses on Broadway Street to do an aerial photo of the attendees, making the numbers 200 to commemorate the wrap up of our bicentennial. For additional bicentennial upcoming events between now and November 30th, you can go to the bicentennial website, which is www.medina200.com. And then, Mr. Coyne, I don't know if you'd rather do Roger and Katie now or wait until we go through all the department heads.
Maybe wait to the end.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall, Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one item to note for council and the public this evening. We are very happy to announce that we are rolling out our 2018 and 19 Historic District Visitor Guide. All of you have received a copy in your mailbox. For the public that is here, if you're interested in, we have them in our brochure rack. I would like to thank Barbara Deserve for all her hard work on this. And this is a collaboration between the city, Main Street Medina, Medina Chamber of Commerce, and Medina Community Design Committee. Not only do they help with the update, but they also are financial contributors as well. And last, I'd like to thank Nino Piccoli for arranging the pickup of the 20,000 visitor guides. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Chief Painter, Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Wright, Recreation Center Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick update. The Rec Center Rec Advisory Committee meeting is this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. at the Rec Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one event I wanted to note. This next Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, the Meadows Turkey Bowl will be moving to a new location at Bill Dunn Field to have their annual backyard football game/tournament, and all proceeds are going to benefit the St. Vincent de Paul Society and local families who are battling cancer. So that's a nice event that's going to now be taking place at Reagan Park. And I also wanted to note that the park staff is out busy decorating the square with the service department in preparation for the candlelight walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gladish, Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. An update on a couple of our projects. The East Smith Road reconstruction, we have been delayed a bit by the weather. We were able to complete the second half of the mainline paving yesterday. The crew was also doing some of the turning radiuses at the intersection today. We look forward to opening that roadway very soon, very quickly. Mayor mentioned the ceremony we had on 42 for the lights. I did want to let folks know, because we've gotten some calls. The roadway work is essentially completed. However, what's not done is the final traffic signals, specifically the southern half of the project. There's still 3 or 4 the permanent signals that need to be powered up and put online. As a result of that, the system itself is not synchronized at the moment. Once all those signals are powered up and installed, then a system analysis is completed, which will optimize the timing in the whole corridor. It hasn't happened yet, so please be patient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piccoli, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. The hot topic tonight is leaves. So folks are wondering, we are out in full force. We will be out as long as weather permits. They've been working weekends, holidays, and we will continue that effort unless we get heavy snow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Hamill?
Yes, sir. I know Katie Simo is here from the Ohio Secretary of State's office and would like to present an award for Best Hometown.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Seaman with the Ohio Secretary of State's office. I'm the regional liaison in Medina County, and I also cover 9 counties in the state of Ohio in this area. But I do have a commendation this evening for you, just as a certificate of recognition as being named as Ohio Magazine's Best 5 Hometowns to Live, Work, and Visit. I spend a lot of time in Medina myself. I'm sure that the mayor and Kimberly Marshall can probably attest to that a little bit more. But you don't have to go very far in Medina to know that it's a really great place to be, and that there's a lot of beautiful things that are happening here. But not only that, I tend to be on the ribbon cutting trail with the city a lot of the times as well, once a month. And, you know, people in Medina are very much working hard and everything to build new businesses and get out there and kind of get everything done. And so I'm very excited to be here tonight to present this to you all.
Thank you.
Are you going to read it?
like me to,
No,
I
no, it's
can.
okay.
Yes, no, that's all right. I can read just a little paragraph at the bottom if you would like. So on behalf of the Ohio Secretary of State's office, as Ohio's 53rd Secretary of State, it is John Hughes's privilege and unique distinction to recognize and commend you on this great honor. I wish you continued success in life and hope, as this achievement is but one in a long line of similar well-deserved advancements.
Cool. We next like to invite up Roger Smalley. Roger is the chair of our Bicentennial Committee, and they organize 200 holes for 200 years golf tournament.
Oh, gee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the Bicentennial Committee thought it would be very appropriate to have a golf tournament for this past summer. We named it 200 Holes for 200 Years, and we had some pretty good participation. And tonight, with the help of the person that really did all the work, Larry Smith. Larry, would you come on up here, please? Larry, retired NASA gentleman, but Larry also served on the City of Medina's Sesquicentennial Committee. That was about 50 years ago. And then he decided to re-up and become part of the Bicentennial Committee, too. And he's been a tremendous help and also has given us an awful lot of perspective from 50 years ago, which was very helpful. So Larry really organized this tournament. We began play on May the 1st. And the final round for the ones that had the top scores was played on in the tournament. It was a scramble, is that correct?
Scramble, yes.
All right. Was played on October the 10th. So they had a long, full summer of golf. And what we'd like to do tonight is recognize, first of all, I guess you can't play golf unless you have a golf course. That's what I hear anyway. So I'd like to ask Larry to give some recognition to the 8 courses that were part of that. Larry's right here.
Okay. I should have brought my list up to make sure I didn't miss one here. No, we had 8 courses. Shale Creek was where we played the scramble, actually, and that was one course. And then we had Bunker Hill, and that's the manager there did with a lot of help and with me setting this whole thing up. So that was great at Bunker Hill. And then had Copper Top, and we had Valier, definitely. I should ask if there are representatives here from each of these courses to stand up, really. Is anybody here representing the courses? Okay. Well, anyway, that Valier, that's 4, and then we had Ridgetop Golf Course, Deer Pass Golf Course, Rustic Hills Golf Course, and one more. Oh, Cosset Creek. Sorry about that. Definitely Cosset Creek. And so we had 8 golf courses that finally ended up doing the participation there and where we played our rounds. And we definitely appreciated all their help. That's no doubt about that. And so the other thing,
presentations.
The presentations, right? You got the.
You have the pendants.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've got all the stuff over here on the side. You want me to bring it up? Or,
yeah, you need some help.
You can't come to
We're hired in.
I didn't want you to worn out up there.
It's getting heavy.
I know.
Yeah, the one thing we'd like to do is we'd like to have the participants, the finalists that actually made the 200 holes and everything else that was involved in this, that actually played in the scramble. If you're here, please stand up. The finalists. We have a couple of gentlemen up above there, Steve and Andy? No. Phil, that's right, Phil. Boy. And Valerie in the back here. And Al Penn and my wife Jean and myself, we were on the And, oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. So, anyway, yeah. And I need to get these pendants to them, and what these are. This is something that says that they were in the playoff scramble, and we'd like to have each one of them get one of these pendants for a souvenir, a memento of the activity. So if we'll come up, if you'll come on up here, we'll get these out, and then we'll have the actual presentation of the trophies.
How are you?
By the way, we didn't pick out these shirts. My friend Roger and Larry did that.
No, let's just leave them all.
Leave 'em out. Okay, and this is the trophies here. These are the trophies, and the team.
This is for Laura Nell, but she's not here this evening. I'm supposed to give these, Larry.
Okay, great. That's great.
They were divided into two groups of four, Team B and Team A. Team B prevailed, and one of our champions here is Valerie Pavlik. And Valerie?
Very good.
And this is a name somewhat familiar since he preceded a couple of us on council, right, Mr. Shields? Alan Penn, the Honorable. And last but not least, the gentleman himself, Mr. Larry Smith. Congratulations, Larry. Now, Larry has one more job to do because we have one more trophy.
Oh, that's true.
I'll hold this one.
Okay. Well, the whole idea of this is Medina's bicentennial. So we have a trophy for the bicentennial group here, and it's going to be placed in a cabinet here someplace, right? Yes. Up here for memorial over the years, and the names are on the trophy here of the winners. So thank you.
And Mr. Smalley? Mr. Smalley? Mr. Smalley? First, I'd like to thank you again for all the work that you've done this campaign. But I'd like to recognize Mr. Shump here, who is part of your golf tournament and part of this bicentennial group. I was just informed, well, part of the bicentennial celebration. I was just informed that he's spent 40 years, celebrating 40 years on Cambridge, Ohio's City Council. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. As president. 2 years. No, I was 23 when I started, and I ended about 8 years.
Congratulations. I don't know how you lasted 40 years. Thank you, Mr. Smalley.
Just say a quick thank you to everyone in the community that came out to our bicentennial events throughout the year. Thousands of people participated, and it was just great to see so many folks coming out and enjoying different parts of Medina's history. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you. Okay, notices, communications, and petitions. We have none. Unfinished business, there's none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments shall be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there is a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the front right microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, ma'am. Okay. We like groups.
Hi, we're the Maddie family. I'm Christy Maddie, the chosen speaker. 1020 Sturbridge Drive, Medina, 44256. We're just here to speak, and hopefully some of you received the email that I sent earlier today. We came to speak in support of Brian Hilberg. I wasn't really sure how the ward thing worked, and anytime I had a city question that I wanted to give Mayor Hanwell a break for and not get my phone call, I would reach out to Brian because I saw him at events. Anytime I reached out to him, even though, come to find out, he's not my ward contact, he always supported the Maddie family. There were a lot of phone calls. He directed us to the right person. If it wasn't the right person to handle that issue, he would try to take over the issue and then direct us again and follow up. And again, he wasn't even our ward contact. So the Maddies have given Mr. Hilberg our full support, and I hope he does well for the process. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Colleen Rice, and I'm Executive Director with Leadership Medina County, and I'm here tonight to share with you about the Government Academy that's going to be coming back to Medina County. It originated with Ohio State University Extension, and Ohio State University Extension came to us and asked if we would partner with them to have the Government Academy again coming in January. And so we are going to be having 10 classes, 5 starting in January, then taking a 2-month break over the summer, and another 5 this fall. The topics are going to be covering zoning, agriculture, sunshine laws, economic impact, social media, communication, dealing with difficult people, and crisis communication. We are going to be using instructors again from Ohio State University and some local experts like Hennis Communication and others who will be coming in and providing instruction for these courses. So as council members, we thought it was very important that we came by to let you know about this. I did bring brochures with me. I don't know if it's appropriate that I hand it to someone to share, but we would certainly love to make sure that all of your public officials are aware of this opportunity, and if you would like to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we could take the brochures up here. Kathy would love them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Yes. Wait 1 second.
Oh. Hello, Jess Hazeltine, 515 Blake Avenue, Ward 1. I had also written to Ms. Patton earlier this week. Hopefully she forwarded that to the members of council, but I wanted to reiterate my support for Suzanne Sharp as a candidate for the Ward 1 spot. Suzanne has been my neighbor for the last 5 years, and I've also been lucky enough to be on the Bankers Road Neighborhood Association with her. She's always shown a passion for Medina. Most importantly, she's very passionate about Medina's past so that she can see the mistakes we've maybe made and figure out better ways to move forward. And I think that's pretty important. You study the past to know how to do better in the future. Suzanne's also brings very many innovative ideas. I think she could really bring a fresh new voice to council, and I can't think of anyone better to follow up that big hole Laura Parnell Cavey left, because she's a pretty hard one to top. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, sir.
Hi there. My name is Fred Schimp at 4571 Rocky Mountain Drive here in Medina. And I wanted to congratulate all of you, the administration, for the Hometown Award, which is one of the nicest awards that you could have. And after being here 8 years, Deborah and I heartily agree with that. And I wanted to also say the main three reasons that I believe this is the greatest city, one of the greatest cities in Ohio, is Gavin, Mirren, and Aylin Gershbacher, our grandchildren. That's why we're here. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Okay. Introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. We have Resolution 16218, a resolution expressing the intent to sell municipally owned personal property which is no longer needed for public use or which is obsolete or unfit for use for which it was acquired by internet auction during the calendar year 2018 and 2019.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Pacoli? Or who? Is that Chief?
Yeah, it's Chief. No, Chief.
Chief Painter, how about you?
Painter.
Yes, this is for two pumpers that we had pulled out of service, and it's our first try. There's such special equipment at the local auction. We didn't think we'd get our fair amount, so we're going to request to do an online auction.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or comment on that? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Resolution 162-18 passes 6-0.
Resolution 16318, a resolution authorizing the application for the firefighter exposure to environmental elements grant from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation for the fire department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Chief Painter.
Yes, this is a grant from the Bureau of Workers' Comp, and we'll be purchasing a large commercial washing machine to launder our gear with. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Resolution 163-18 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 16418, ordinance authorizing the increase of expenditure to Core and Main LLP to $30,000 for the water department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Pacoli.
This is mine. Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance will increase our PO with the current vendor that we purchase water system maintenance supplies from. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Ordinance 164-18 passes 6-0.
We're already to council comments. You
Wow.
believe that? Council comments. Mr. Lamb.
Thank you. I have two things. One is last week we did a preview of this documentary that Matt Tomick, who works at Medina TV, he and I worked on a project for about a year and a half, which is a 200-year history of housing in Medina. And the curious thing was when we got it all done and he edited it, which was a huge job. He's very talented. We're lucky to have him at Medina TV. When we got it all done and got ready to make the DVD, we had never had a name for it. And I couldn't think of a name for it. And Matt actually named the DVD, he named it 200 Years of What We Call Home. And we had a preview of this last week, and it is currently for sale right now anyway at the Medina County Visitors Bureau and at Cool Beans, and it will be at a number of other places over the holidays. But it starts with the log cabin, which was the first building built in Medina, right where Cool Beans is today, and it goes straight through the different architectures, technologies in housing, and folks that live there and histories, right up to what, interestingly enough, was the last house built in Medina during the bicentennial, and it was a rebuild, and it looks like a Greek revival on the outside, but inside it is a totally modern home. So it's kind of a fun thing to look at. As I did at the preview, I had a part in it, but Matt from Medina TV really had a huge part in the production, because we filmed it with 3 cameras. And the filming part of it and the technology and whatever you do with editing, I really don't know anything about. I organized the houses and kind of planned what we were going to do. But then Matt had to take what we filmed with 3 cameras and put that together into a cohesive and comprehensive and actually something you could watch, and just did a fantastic job doing it. Extraordinarily professional, and a great person to work with. We're lucky to have him at Medina TV. And lastly, the Community Design Committee has an annual holiday home tour, and that holiday home tour is the first Sunday in December. And this year the holiday home tour features 1 home in each of Medina's 5 historic neighborhoods. Also features St. Paul's Episcopal Church. The Medina Engine House Museum will be opened, and there is a sneak peek at the restoration renovation of the 2nd floor of the engine house, which was is an almost complete project that was done with the CDC, City of Medina, the Van Epp family, and the Medina County Career Center. So that's the first Sunday in December, is the CDC Holiday Home Tour. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? We're hearing none. We're going to move into the Ward 1 council vacancy interviews. That's why everybody's here, it appears. And the list on the agenda that outlines the 5 candidates that are vying for this position were put in an order based upon pulling a number out of a hat. So it's a random order. There's no particular order in which anyone would be speaking. And what we're going to do is ask the individuals that are vying for this position to go downstairs so that they can't hear in the back room, and then we'll call them up in order as shown on the agenda to give a 5, no longer than 10-minute introduction of themselves, and then they'll be asked questions by each of the council members. The questions will be asked, the same question will be asked by each council member to each of the candidates in fairness, so that we can understand the answer. And currently, I don't believe any of the potential candidates know what the questions are, so it'll be a surprise. And so at this time, I'd like to have all the candidates except for Robert Starcher to follow Keith Durham in the back to go downstairs, and then we will begin the process. So if anybody would like to move around right now, now's the time.
Does that include us?
Augment mine a little bit, okay. As long as it's the same for everybody.
Yeah, it will. Okay. I should have given you one.
We're out here. Okay, so we'd like to commence the process of the interviews of the Ward 1 Council candidates. And our first candidate is Robert Starcher. Robert?
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, department heads. My name is Robert, no middle initial Starcher. I've been married to Chris for 25 years. We have a daughter, Melissa. She lives in Charlotte with her family, including 20-month-old Denali, the cutest baby ever. I moved to 887 Bunker Hill in June 1978. I've been there ever since. It's over 40 years for those of you keeping score at home. When I moved to Medina, I worked in Middleburg Heights. But then in 1983, a wise mayor of Medina hired me as a police officer. Over the course of 30 years, my career at the police department grew in conjunction with the city. When I started, the city's population was about 16,000, and I was the 17th officer on the department. When I retired in 2013 as a lieutenant, it had grown to about where it is today, almost 27,000, and we had 39 police officers. During that time, I was able to run some department operations from the inside, working with then Chief Hanwell to prepare annual department budgets and work with other department heads extensively. So I worked with them knowing the amount of time, energy, and money it takes to run a great city. Unfortunately, I also saw the bad times in 2003 when the city had to lay off 70 employees, including 7 police officers. But out of that came a sense of pride in that Medina could weather the storm and not only weather it, but grow stronger. The 5-year plan in preparing department budgets started at that time. And that allowed Medina to flourish because while we spent within our means, we were forced to look ahead into the future and grow a strong future. Since I retired, I've stayed active in the city. I've been the city representative on the Medina County Drug Abuse Commission Board for the last 4 years. So I know firsthand the problem that the addiction is now causing government in many ways, not just economically. And the fantastic job that Brian Nowak does with taxpayer dollars incorporating prevention, enforcement, and treatment. And it's encouraging to know that the treatment options are growing in this area. I'm also an auxiliary police officer with Montville Township Police Department, Terry Grice, Chief. And I've worked the McPAL program, Medina County Police Activities League program since then. And I've worked in Garfield School, Ella Canterman, and Sidney Fenn since then, working with 3rd through 5th graders, encouraging the relationship building between children and police officers. This year I was able to step back as a regular PAL officer, due in part to the fact that Medina police officers have stepped up with the encouragement of Chief Kinney to be in their schools on a weekly basis with the PAL program. As far as the reason I want to serve on council, it starts with that word, serve. I believe a councilman serves the citizens of his ward, local business and industry, and the city. As I stated in my application, the quality of life in Medina is second to none. It has developed because of the cooperation of government, citizens, and business. By working together, each sector benefits exponentially from this relationship, allowing it to do what's best for the city. Ward 1 is the northwest section of the city. It's unique in its makeup with the proximity of residential and industry. It has low-income, subsidized housing. It has upscale residential developments. We have small family-run businesses as well as nationally recognized companies. I want to be the first Medina City Council person that lives in the Buckeye School District. I want to be the only Medina City Council person who lives more than 2 blocks west of the square. Right now, it's a lot of unrepresented people in the area. As I alluded to earlier, the city has adopted the budgetary 5-year plan to anticipate capital needs and anticipated revenues. So when people ask, what's the biggest need in Ward 1? If you ask 10 citizens, you might come up with 10 different answers, depending on the name or the day. There's traffic, drugs, noise from industry, sidewalks, things like that. But in order to maintain and hopefully improve the high quality of life in Medina, the right question for leaders in the city is to ask, what's going to be the biggest need in Ward 1 5 years from now? What do we need to do to ensure that citizens can still say, boy, this is a great city to live in? A great man once said, you're either getting better or worse. You don't say the same. Medina has constantly been getting better. I'd very much like the opportunity to become a part of that improvement into the future and serve the citizens of Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll go through the members of council, and they will ask you a specific question that they would like to, are concerned about with respect to Ward 1. And we're going to start out with Paul Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Starcher, thank you very much for putting your name out there. Appreciate it. And thank you for your service to the city prior to this.
You're welcome.
My question is, it's 2-part. First part is, will you run a campaign to complete the full term?
I understand that 6 out of 7 council people have to run next November. And at this point, I have every intention of doing that.
Why?
Because in a short period of time, in order to get on the ground running, it's going to take a short period of time to get up and running, and with the current agendas on the council. So after that, be able to really sink my teeth into it and serve the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be by Jim Shields.
Good evening.
I'm Mr. Shields.
Good to see you here. Thank you for applying. My question is, each of us try to bring our own expertise and skills, and we have our interests for council. What would you bring to this council? What would be your skill or ability that you would help complement this group of individuals on council?
Well, like I mentioned before, I've worked on the other side of council. I've worked in the departments and know what it takes to do what council wants, know what they're looking for, know what their expectations are. I have a business degree from Ohio State University, business administration, and I'm also cheap. So I think I would do a good job with the city's funds and revenues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Denny Simpson?
Hi, Bob.
Mr. Simpson?
I've known and worked with Bob his entire police career and think the world of him. Bob, my question for you, first of all, thank you for your service and thanks for applying for this position. Besides social media, how do you see yourself interacting and being involved with the population of Ward 1, including homeowner associations, Let's Make a Difference, just as examples?
I've already been involved with that a little bit with the residential areas, with the Osborne situation and the noise from the industrial area. But there's so many neighborhoods that have things going on, like you mentioned, Michelle Powell with Let's Make a Difference. There's the whole north end near the theater and those areas. We have historic neighborhoods in Ward 1 that are always, there's always something going on in Medina. And like someone mentioned from the audience previously, you interact at those events a lot more than the scheduled Ward 1 meetings, for example. So there's plenty of opportunities to interact with the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm next, and my question, you already answered it, was believing what is the most important issue facing Ward 1 currently and solving it and what is in the future going to be the issues, but you already addressed that in your opening statement. However, as a follow-up question, I think I know the answer already, is will your current job situation allow you to attend all the meetings? I guess I know the answer to that one.
Yes.
Yes. So that I have to wait the next one for that one. Mr. Lamb.
Thank you. Who hired you, Bob?
There was a mayor back in '83. I'm not sure. I forget his name.
Okay. Listen, my question is this. Tell me, what would diversity on city council look like?
Well, the traditional definition of diversity is race, gender, ethnicity, but it also involves backgrounds, experiences, education. It involves a sense of inclusion. You include people, everyone, make them part of the community, make them part of, in this case, the city of Medina or Ward 1. You include everyone. Then you incorporate all those differences and you use them to the best of your ability.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Heffinger.
Thank you for applying. My question for you is, every council person here, it has to be on different committees in which they either lead or just a part of voting on. I'm curious, what committees do you think you would fit best in, and why can you help us there?
Obviously, health, safety, and sanitation would be my forte, since in high school for 3 summers I was a garbage man. But any committee has its duties and responsibilities. Streets and sidewalks, water and utilities. Streets and sidewalks would be a good one. Water and utilities, public properties, any of those, you have the ability to make a difference in the city. So there's not one that I would pick out. Health, safety, sanitation, obviously with my background as an officer, as a lieutenant, I would have some knowledge, previous knowledge, but any of them I would hope to serve well.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your input and time and your willingness to serve. You can have a seat in the audience now, and we'll ask for John Wetzel to come up. Welcome, Mr. Wetzel. And as you approach the microphone, you have about 5 to 10 minutes to tell us about yourself.
I've I've got enough here for an hour and a half.
Well, we got a little bit of a short time limit on that, but if you would, give us your introductory statement, and then we'll ask you questions.
My name is John Wetzel. I live at 311 West Washington Street in Ward 1 and in the heart of the Bankers Row. Honorable members of council, I'm here this evening choose me to represent Ward 1. And there are a lot of reasons.
Oh, Mr. Wetzel, you keep hitting the button. So if you can turn that button on. Okay.
And I've listed 5 what I think are pertinent facts that you should know about me and my qualifications. The first one is, I understand we've been designated as a great place to live. And did we get another hometown designation this evening? Those are both great. And one of my goals is to support those designations and to build on them. And the residents and the business community deserve no less. I think that those designations were arrived at not by chance, but by some very positive and long-seeing vision by members of council and the administration. The second thing I'd like you to know is that I have much knowledge and experience in doing what you all do every day. I've lived in, I came to Medina in 1960, and if you do a little arithmetic, it indicates that I've lived in Ward 1 for 58 years. And during most of that time, I've attended many, many council meetings, probably hundreds of council meetings. And I feel that my experience and knowledge will be very helpful to the council in some very serious decisions you're going to have to be making soon. The third thing I'd like you to know is why I'm seeking a position on the council is that I'm constantly being encouraged to do so. I was on council for 15 years, and at the end of my tenure until now, it's been about 10 years. And to this day, I encounter people who tell me what a good job I did, and they wish that I were back once again. The fourth thing I want you to know is that if I'm chosen, I can provide continuity because in all the years I've been in town, I've attended hundreds of council meetings. And to this day, I still attend council meetings, and I will continue to do so, however things work out here this evening. Because of my attending council meetings, I can become effective in a very short time, in hours, tomorrow if you prefer. And the last reason is that a personal reason. I enjoy being on council. In hundreds of council meetings I've attended, it never gets old. I think I have a passion, and I can't stand not being in office. So I think that I can contribute very much to council because of my background. There are two things I'd like to mention, and one of them is the advent of the neighborhood associations in recent years. I think that's one of the best things that could have happened. The other thing there's one thing that's always bothered me. I don't know if you realize it or not, but Ward 1 is notable for one thing, which is that it's the only ward that doesn't have a school. And it's probably wishful thinking to expect to get one, but every other ward has multiple schools. Ward 2 has 5 schools. Ward 3 has 1. Ward 4 has 2 schools. And there are 2 schools to the south out of town. Now, in Ward 1, some of the kids go to Buckeye School, and some of them go to Northrop, and some go to Garfield, and they have to walk. Of course, kids walk to other schools as well, but we have no school in our neighborhood, and that'll probably never come about. But I hope that the next school that's built is in Ward 1. That's about all I have to say. Again, to sum up, from attending council meetings and being a member of council for 15 years, I think I have knowledge and experience that allows me to contribute a lot. I think council and the administration are going to have to make some very serious decisions about the city in the near future. We're going to have to decide what we want to be, whether we want to preserve the past or forge the future. I don't think we can do both. And so we're going to have to make some decisions. And I think I would like to be a part of that. And I think I can contribute. That's about all I have to say. You have some questions for me?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Wetzel, it's good to see you again as always, and thank you for putting your name in the hat. I do have a two-part question. The first part of it is, do you plan on running a campaign to complete the full term?
Yes. The day I'm sworn in will be the beginning of my campaign for next year.
Okay, and why?
Because of all the things I just said. I want to continue what I hope to start tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. Wetzel, for putting your name in. When you look at this council, what do you think is the quality or skill that will best complement this group that you can bring to it?
Would you repeat the question, please?
What quality or skill do you have that will best complement the 6 council members that are here? What will you bring to this role?
I'm glad you asked me that. I think the single most important characteristic, there are 3 characteristics. Be able to communicate. It's absolutely essential. The ideal council person will be able to communicate among yourselves, of course, and communicate with the administration, the department heads, the employees, which are most important asset. Communicate with, you deal mostly with the legislative and executive branches of government. Don't forget the judge in the court, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but be able to communicate not only within the city, but with the townships, with the county, and even with the state. And I can't stress this enough. The communication part of it. Know who the trustees are in township, know who the people are in the county, know the treasurer and at least the principal people, treasurer and auditor and the administrator and the sheriff, know all those people. And the state, at least with the state, at least know what the districts we're in and who our representatives are. And I don't want to repeat myself, but to answer your question, I think the most important thing for any council person is to be able to communicate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Hi, Mr. Wetzel. It's good seeing you standing up here, sir, and no matter what decision is made up here tonight, you're never going to stop contributing. That's just in your nature. And
I'm afraid it's my passion.
I know, and we sure respect that, and I've enjoyed the time that I got to spend with you when you did sit up here in the past. My question tonight, sir, besides social media, how do you see yourself interacting and being involved with the population of Ward 1? For example, the homeowner associations that you mentioned, and organizations like Let's Make a Difference. See yourself interacting with the people in
yes,
Ward 1.
Yes. I have to think about that for a minute. But based on the things that happened when I was active with council, was through the churches. I spent probably the majority of my time communicating with my constituents through the churches, and we'll probably have picnics and things like that, and I prefer to deal one-on-one with most of the people that I represent, and the most satisfying thing is to be able to help somebody who really needs help through no fault of their own. And my stronger point is one-to-one contact.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And what do you believe is the most important issue facing Ward 1 today and in the future? The most important issue?
Schools, a school, and is the most important one. And maintaining the neighborhoods. And that's why I appreciate the advent of neighborhood groups. I think we want to make sure that the neighborhoods are properly maintained, and I'll do anything I can to try to see that happens.
And a follow-up question that's similar, and I think I know the answer. Will your job allow you to attend all the meetings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lamb?
John, wonderful to see you. You and I worked together in this building just a little while ago, right? Wasn't that long ago. My question is this. What would diversity on this council look like to you?
What would diversity look like?
Yes. On this council, these 7 seats, what would diversity look like to you?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you mean a diversity of backgrounds?
It could be diversity of backgrounds. It could be diversity of race. It could be diversity of sexual orientation. It could be diversity of gender. It could be diversity of age. How would you see diversity? What do you think it would look like on this city council?
Well, I'd try to get the best cross-section that I could. People of various backgrounds, various ages, business people would be important. Young people, old people. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I'd like to see as much diversity as possible. Now that can mean a lot of things. Age is important. Race is important. Gender is important. Education is important. Contact with city government is important. That is, people who come to a council meeting or have never been to a council meeting is important. I don't know where to go beyond that. I'd like to see as much diversity as possible.
That's great. You answered the question.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Hevinger?
Thank you, Mr. Wetzel, for being here today. As I'm sure you are aware, every council person has to be on a committee or multiple committees. I'm curious what committees you think you would fit best on and why.
Water Committee, because I was chairman of the Water Committee before, and I probably know more about it than any other.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your eagerness to run. And we'll move on to the next one. It'll be Mr. Brian Hilberg. Jared, if you can summon Mr. Hilberg. Brian, welcome. You have about 5 to 10 minutes to tell us about yourself and why you want to run for the Ward 1 council seat.
Good evening, and thank you for this chance to interview for the vacant Ward 1 seat. I'm Brian Hilberg. I've lived at 246 West Homestead for the past 10 years with my wife Mary and twin daughters Isabel and Sophia. My parents moved my family to Medina County area about 40 years ago, and I'm a 1986 graduate of Buckeye High School. With the exception of a few years for employment reasons, I've lived in and around Medina County for my entire life. We moved back to Medina in 2004 and established a successful business on Public Square, and I've tried to be an active member of the community since. I'm a member of Main Street Medina, the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce, Medina County Convention and Visitors Bureau. I've been previously appointed to the City Cemetery Commission, Utility Rate Review Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and I currently sit on the Planning Commission. As you all know, I was the Ward 1 Council Representative from 2012 to 2017. Currently, I'm a board member of the Salvation Army of Medina County, board president of Hope Recovery Community, and co-founder and co-chair of the Medina Westside Community Initiative. During my time on City Council, I truly believe that I did some good things for Ward 1. But I also discovered how difficult it can be to balance the interests of residents with the interests of businesses. I believe I am where I am today because I learned from my mistakes. Last year, I was criticized for how I handled a particular situation, and I learned some valuable lessons from that. As a future Ward 1 Council representative, I will prove to our residents that I have again learned from my mistakes. I'll establish more open lines of communication with them and be more assertive when it comes to their needs and concerns. I believe my previous experience on City Council, my experiences with our administration, along with my previous management and small business experience, puts me in a strong position to best represent Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rose, first question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Brian, for putting your hat in the ring. Appreciate it. I've got a two-part question here. The first part is, will you run a campaign for re-election to complete the full term?
Absolutely.
Okay. Why?
Because I'm committed to the residents of Ward 1, committed to the residents of the city in a whole. I've already done it twice. If this hadn't come up, I was already prepared to run in 2019 and possibly 2021 anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Brian, for being here and for putting your name in this process. I have a question for you. You know this group pretty well, but if you think about it, what skill or quality do you think will best complement the 6 of us that are already on council that you would bring to this seat?
With the group that's here now, I think what's missing is small business ownership. I own a small business on the square. I've been successful for 13 years now, and hopefully for many more years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Denny.
Good to see you, and thank you for putting your hat in the ring. The question is, besides social media, how do you see yourself interacting and being involved with the population of Ward 1, including homeowners associations, Let's Make a Difference, just as examples?
Well, I mentioned that I learned some valuable lessons. I know that I need to get out there and meet some more residents. One of the things that I promised during my campaign was that I would establish relationships with homeowners associations and condo associations, hopefully set up quarterly meetings, email distribution lists to any resident that wants to be on it, whether they're in the ward or in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what do you believe is the most important issue facing Ward 1 now and in the future?
The most important?
Yes.
Can I give you a couple?
It's up to you.
it's hard to pick out the one that stands out. There's several of them. We have an opioid epidemic right now. We have distressed neighborhoods that need to be improved. Infrastructure needs to be replaced. And one thing I'd like to work on, in especially in Ward 1, is Ward 1's a very diverse ward, from low to moderate income to wealthy. And sometimes there's barriers between those groups, and I'd like to work to break down those barriers.
Okay, and will your job enable you to attend all the meetings?
The council meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Thanks, Brian. I was really impressed by your statement.
Thank you.
It was excellent. And my question is this. What do you think, what would diversity look like on this city council? How would you see diversity on this city council?
Our communities and our workplaces, our schools are becoming increasingly diverse. I think we can learn from that diversity, from those groups, whether it be cultural, ethnic, sexual orientation, whatever it is. I think we can learn from that. But I think we first need to understand those groups. So I think in order for us to be a diverse council, I don't necessarily think it needs to be, one person from this group, one person from that group, as long as we can understand what those differences are between those groups.
Thank you.
Mr. Heffinger?
Mr. Hilberg, thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
As a former council person, I'm sure you're aware that we have to be on committees besides just here in the council. I'm curious, what committees do you think that you would fit in the best in, and why?
First would have to be probably streets and sidewalks. With the condition of some of our streets and sidewalks in Ward 1, a lot of older streets, a lot of older sidewalks, a lot of intersections with no curb, handicap accessible curbs. So I think that would be one of the first ones I'd like to sit on. Finance committee probably doesn't count, does it?
Nope.
Okay. Probably public properties. I previously sat on public properties, enjoyed that time with Mr. Shields. We did a lot of work with the pool. So I'd like to continue that. Probably special legislation. I'm interested in figuring out ways that we can take new legislation and use it to our advantage as a city, to kind of balance growth with preservation.
Well, thank you for your answering the questions, and we'll move on to the next candidate. You can take a seat in the audience, and that's Suzanne Sharp. And we have some background information on everybody. This is just more pointed questions that we ask, just to get a feel for how they would respond to these questions, not knowing them, and it gives us a better understanding of their involvement in the community. So, as everybody probably knows, sitting in the audience. Mr. Sharp, welcome. We'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes to tell us about yourself and why you're interested in running to fill the vacancy of the Ward 1 council seat. And then we'll follow it up with questions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, good evening, President Coyne, members of council, Clerk Patton, and administrators, members of the press. I think Bob's still here. Neighbors and friends. My name is Suzanne Sharp, and I am really truly honored to stand before you this evening as an applicant for appointment to Medina City Council Ward 1. So, for those who know me, I have a real romance going on with Medina. I tell everyone how great it is. I really do. This passion was born in me, I would say, really since my family would make this town a staycation day, and we'd come out to see all the cute little antique shops and the old houses and the new gazebo. And it was like a tourist attraction then for my family, and ironically that's how marketing is going. We're going in that direction now, making it a tourist location for folks, and it always has been in my eyes. So even after 18 years really of living here, I feel like I'm still reaching a vacation destination when I drive home from Cleveland every day, because there's always some event that is, you know, that has just transformed our public square, you know, and it's different every time I drive through. It's hopping, it's lively, it's inviting, and I just really love it. My husband Jack and I, we own 3 homes, and they're all located within a 3-block radius of Public Square. And we feel like it's our civic duty to maintain these properties as we respect the greater whole of the city. And our main home, as probably most of you know, is a historic home. It was built around 1843 on West Washington Street. And I feel especially motivated to protect this 175-year-old home, not because it's a Grand Victorian, but because it was one of the first pioneer homes in the village. So with that gift of owning the home comes a sort of duty. Of keeping it, you know, open and inviting to the public. So also for that reason of protecting the house and its historic value, I stepped up to serve as treasurer of the Bankers Row Historic Neighborhood Association, which has given me kind of a small taste, I would imagine, of how it would be to serve my neighborhood on a larger scale as the council person for Ward 1. So now, the first thing I would plan to accomplish when I am appointed is to set up a meet and greet before this Christmas holiday. And I would like to have that at the Root Candle Company Community Room. And I could introduce myself to my ward, get to know constituents, and, you know, have some punch and cookies, invite everybody. And I want, this is very important to me. I want everyone to know I'm very approachable. You know, I'm a good listener, and I want to hear what they have to say. You know, honestly, before Laura Parnell Cavey was my council person, I didn't know who my council person was. So I want my ward to know me. I want to have them know my face, recognize my voice and my face, and how to contact me, and to feel free and open to contact me. I would say that I see all possibilities and not limitations. I have learned, really, working for Cleveland State University, I've been there for 27 years, to think outside the box. I spend every day problem solving, and I work with 27 full-time faculty members with PhDs and 53 part-time instructors, and I'm always finding new ways to approach problems. And I want you to know that I can be a very strong advocate for my ward, but I'm also a cooperative team player, because I've learned how to do that. And I've also learned to give strength to great ideas, just, you know, a little push of faith. So I would like to make this council and my ward an offer. If I'm appointed, I will set up a Ward 1 community fund, a nonprofit that will improve the quality of life in our community, both now and in the future. And maybe that looks like starting a community garden, or promoting a neighborhood painting project, or leveraging greater grant funds. I mean, the possibilities really are endless. And I will use my paycheck as council person to fund this nonprofit. That is my offer. Auditor Mike Kovac and I talked briefly on Friday, and he's done something similarly to this with the Medina County Community Fund. And he said, yes, it is possible to do. And I would really like to imagine the possibilities of this. So let me assure you that after you appoint me tonight as Ward 1 councilperson, I fully intend to run for re-election next November to complete the final 2 years of this term. And I promise, when given the chance, I will honorably serve all of you and continue to positively and lovingly promote this wonderful city I, and really we, are all blessed to call home. Thanks.
Thank you. Now to the questions. Mr.
Okay.
Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mrs. Sharp, for putting your name out there and taking the time to present this evening.
Certainly. Thank you.
You already answered my question, which was, do you plan on running a campaign to complete the term? But I do have a follow-up to that, and then why?
Why?
Yes. Why would you do that?
Well, because I don't want to do this halfway. I don't usually do anything halfway. If I'm doing this for 1 year, I'm doing this for the next 2 years. And after that, I will go for another 4 years. And I will continue until my ward votes in someone else they feel is more appropriate for the position.
Thank you.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
My question is, we have 6 council members here. We all bring our own skills and abilities. What do you think is the skill or ability that you will bring that best complements this group of existing council people?
To complement you all, well, I would add some much needed diversity to this council, I would say. I know that, obviously, Laura Parnell KV fought for her seat on council, and as a female, she added a different perspective from all of you, and I would like to carry that on. Laura did ask me to apply for appointment to follow her, and I would add that perspective, but I would also, you need me, okay, because I've got some really great ideas, and I will liven you up, and I will, I've got some really great ideas, and I guarantee you would enjoy having me, and we'll do a lot together. I really would be a very strong voice for my ward, and I'm really going to be a great collaborative partner with you all, because I want to make things work. I want to make things happen. And we're all here to make Medina and keep Medina, a great city we all love.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson.
Susan, thanks for throwing your hat in the ring.
Thank you.
My question to you is, besides social media, how do you see yourself interacting between and being involved with the population of Ward 1, including homeowner associations and groups like Let's Make a Difference, just as examples?
Well, I think social media is a really great way to advertise events like, for example, the meet and greet that I would intend to hold. I think getting out there and meeting people is very important. I started this already with our Bankers Row Neighborhood Association because we've had so many events already. It's a matter of going out and saying hello to people and introducing yourself, and then going to events that the city has too, so that they know that they see I'm invested in everything we're doing, not just in our ward, but really what the whole town is doing. So I think that that's important. I would definitely, I would make partnerships with all of you council people. I would, go out and do things with the mayor. I'd go to, ribbon cuttings and everything. And hold events like Laura did with the community cleanup, and with that community fund. That holds a lot of possibilities, because Chet Simmons used to be a council person in our ward, and he had like a paint project where he had paint donated from Sherwin-Williams, and they painted 6 houses in one day. They had so many volunteers, and they painted 6 houses on Bradway in one day. And something like that we could do. Even if we had to buy brushes, we could do that. So think about it, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you believe is the most important issue facing Ward 1 today and in the future?
Well, obviously, each ward has its unique challenges and, advantages. And I haven't served yet, so I don't exactly know what the unique challenge would be. You know what I realized? I did the map. I did it like an overlay. I know this looks kind of like grade school, but I printed out the zoning map of the districts, and I overlaid our Ward 1 map. And if you look, there is a really tremendous amount of industrial, zoned industrial land here. And I think that a big challenge here is already being tackled. This is my perspective now, not having served, okay? I think it's already being addressed by our economic development director. Ms. Marshall has been doing really a great job. She's getting those in industry spaces filled. She's been really doing a great job increasing the industrial base. And that's a great source of income tax revenue. And that's a huge amount in our ward. I would really love to work with her and be another positive, welcoming face for the groups, the corporations we're trying to get in here. So that's what I would say, having not served yet, but just guessing.
And as a follow-up, will your job enable you to attend our meetings?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I had to get permission in order to even apply. It's sort of in our personnel policies at Cleveland State University. And I have plenty of vacation time. We get 5 weeks a year. And if I have to leave early for anything, I can certainly do that. And the really nice thing about being a manager is that I can flex my hours. I'm salary. I can work from home. I can come in early, leave late. I just, I have no problem doing that. I have the full support of my department chair and my dean, and you probably have received some letters of support from them, and they want me to do this. They would love for me to do this.
Mr. Lamb?
Thank you, Suzanne. You and I have worked together on the Bankers Row neighborhood and on a community design committee garden party.
Yes.
My question is this. What would diversity on city council look like to you?
Well, I think what diversity looks like to me in general is acknowledging that each person is a unique individual and brings their own unique qualities to the table. And it's not only accepting that person's individuality, but working to bridge, working to make alliances with that person to prevent or maybe minimize discrimination. I think that it's important that diversity in this case would be inclusivity of, our population in Medina is 51% female. So diversity should really sort of match our statistics better than 100% male on the city council. And I mean, no offense, you all have done a wonderful job. I just would suggest that in order to be more inclusive and to have that perspective of diversity, I would suggest having a female fulfill that ward seat.
Good.
That's
Thank
what
you.
it looks
Thank
like
you.
to me.
Mr. Heffinger?
Mrs. Sharp, thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
Every council person must serve on at least 2 committees for the city.
Yes.
I'm curious, which committees do you think that you would fit best in and why?
Oh, that's a trick question, Mr. Heffinger. Well, I know already that I need to fulfill the committees that Laura Parnell Cavey was sitting on, if I am correct. And I also asked President Coyne if I could sit on another one day, and he said in January I might be able to make a suggestion on one. But I know I would have to let me see, I have it written down. Okay, so everyone serves on Finance Committee. I wouldn't have a choice on that. I would likely take Laura Parnell Cavey's seat as chair of the Water and Utilities Committee, and I would likely be a member on the Public Property Committee. Does that answer your question, or would you like to know what I would like to do?
You have a suggestion. Which one would you like to be on?
Well, I would love, of course, in January, I would love to serve on the Historic Preservation Committee. Of course, that goes without saying, but that's a board, the Historic Preservation Board. Is that not an answer?
But I don't think that's one of our committee. I think that's appointed by the mayor.
Okay,
and that's
special legislation.
Everybody wants to be there.
Because yes, okay, well, that was my answer, special legislation. I mean, who wants to be on emergent
Well, Paul does. He's the chair.
Oh, no offense, Mr. Rose. Well, it just seems like, well, and streets and sidewalk, well, my answer is special legislation.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your eagerness to run. And you can have a seat in the audience now, and we'll ask our last candidate for the Ward 1 seat, Kevin Consiglio, to come up. Welcome, Mr. Consiglio. I'm not sure if there's many more down there. You have about 5 to 10 minutes to give us a background that you'd like to give regarding your candidacy for the filling the vacancy of the Ward 1 council seat, and then we'll lead into questions from council members.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Kevin Consiglio. Right now, we're working towards my master's degree with Ashland University, get my MBA there. I'm graduating in the spring of 2019, coming up here right now. I work for First Energy as a business analyst. I work in workforce development, doing a lot of process improvement and implementation there. I got, at Ashland University, I got my Six Sigma Green Belt in process improvement, so that's how I got the job I have today, by having that certification. I worked in the parks and cemetery and forestry back in between 2004 and 2010. And while working there, I got a lot of knowledge about the departments, and met with a lot of people that work within the city, got to know a lot of people. 2015, I came to Medina and built my house here. I built it on my own, and I was looking for a place to live because I worked in the city of Akron and working for First Energy, and I was trying to look for a place to build my home. So that's why I came to the city of Medina, because when I was working with the parks, I liked the city, and when I was and I got to know what Medina was really about. So that's why I came here, decided to live here, and I like the community. The reasons why I'm seeking the Ward 1 appointment, I was newer to the city and I wanted to help. I wanted to do more than just be a citizen and live here. I obviously ran in 2017 for a council because I wanted to do something to help out the citizens, and being a younger individual, I wanted to give like a different perspective to the city. I always continue to be involved with the citizens, even though I did not get elected this last year. I continue to be involved and walk around and ask citizens what their issues that they have. I'm very detail-oriented, very analytical. When being on council, I can assist in making sound business decisions. Always, one thing I wanted to make sure to keep the square historic. I don't want to see anything change, because that's why people come to Medina. They're known for the historic society in the Medina Square. So I want to keep that going, the momentum. The citizens and the council, I believe, can trust me because I'm a loyal person. I want to help the citizens, just like if I went to a councilman to ask for help, I want to make sure that their question is important. Living on the outskirts of the ward, I feel I can bring a different perspective. I know the past two council members live closer to the center of the city, so I can believe like living on the outskirts of the ward, I get a different perspective and help involve the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Kevin, thank you for coming out this evening and putting your hat in the ring. Appreciate your time. Okay, I have a two-part question. The first part is, will you run a campaign to complete the full term?
Yes, I would run a complete campaign. Like I was mentioned before, I ran a campaign in 2017, and that's why I put my hat in for this bid right now for the appointment, because I'm not going to give up. I'm dedicated and keep motivated to do it, so I would continue to complete the term.
Okay, thank you. And follow-up to that is why?
Like I said, I moved here to the city of Medina because I wanted to help out. So I'm very dedicated. I have some ideas that I would like to maybe come across and ask a council in the city to see if it was a good opportunity to do. So I want to see if the ideas I have could potentially become true.
Thank you.
Mr. Shields?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight and for applying for the job. My question is, as you look at the six of us, we each have our skills and abilities we bring to this group and we complement each other. What do you think your skill or ability would be to complement this group? What would you bring to us that would help this group?
What I would bring to council to help, like I was mentioning, I'm working towards my master's degree in business, my MBA, so I'm very analytical, very detail oriented, so I could analyze a problem. I don't want to make a quick, I'm not the type of person to make a quick judgment, a quick call on an issue. I would kind of look at my resources to get all the facts straight, lined up, and then make a good business decision from there.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson?
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for throwing your hat in the ring. Good luck to you. My question is, besides social media, how do you see yourself interacting and being involved with the population of Ward 1, using as examples the homeowners associations and groups like Let's Make a Difference?
How I would make myself involved with the city, I would, right now, as I help out with my current association in my development, and I also, like I mentioned, was walking around the city as I was campaigning also to express my concerns with the city and also seeing what the citizens have to say about the city and their concerns. And I would also attend other events within the city of Medina like you have coming up to engage what they have to say.
Thank you very much.
And what do you believe is the most important issue facing Ward 1 now and in the future?
The one issue I would see, I was speaking to other individuals with the Ward 1 is, I would say like the housing towards the center of the city. People would like to see improvements, maybe more upkeep, because that is what attracts people from out of the city of Medina to the city. There's a square area, so the housing around the square can see improvement and keep that more historic.
And will your job enable you to attend our meetings?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Will your job enable you to attend our meetings?
Yeah, I should be able to attend your meetings. It shouldn't be interference.
Mr. Lamb?
Thanks for coming, Kevin. Appreciate it. And I got to know you. You worked on a house tour with me, and I got to know you when you campaigned.
Yep.
And my question to you is this. What would diversity look like to you on this city council? What would diversity look like on this city council?
Diversity would look like to me on city council would be like maybe young generation, I would say women and say like older generation. So kind of like a diverse group of individuals that give different perspectives and different ideas within the city. Because if you have, for example, all the same type of people, then it's kind of like you guys all come out the same idea then.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Heffinger?
Mr. Consiglio, thank you for being here today. every council person must serve on at least 2 different committees for city council. I'm curious what committees you think you would fit best on and why.
Committees that I would serve best on, one of them I would look at the cemetery committee. As I previously had mentioned, I was worked there as a laborer. I would be interested in doing that, so I have some background knowledge on that. Also, one that was kind of interested to me was the Emerging Technologies Committee. I liked kind of like the way the society's going is to create new technology and implement it in the city.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank everybody for all the candidates for going through this process. It takes some courage to come up in front of us and put your life on the line, so to speak, your life history, I guess, on the line. Not your life. I guess we're not going to do that. But I encourage everybody to take this opportunity, as you all did, and it shows that you are really dedicated to the city of Medina, specifically your ward. And I have to say that through the process of being on council for such a long time, we are getting more and more individuals who are willing to come and serve the city, which is great. My first year on the city council, if I remember correctly, there was a Ward 3 seat up and nobody ran. There was a writing candidate that got on council. So this is great, and I appreciate it. So what we're going to do now as members of council, we're going to go back and deliberate. We're going to go through all and discuss each of you candidates amongst ourselves. And I don't know how long it'll take, but hopefully not too long, but we'll come back out and make our selection. So if you'd all like to stay, that'll be great. So we'll be back as soon as we can make a decision.
I need to make a motion to go into executive session.
I'm sorry, yeah, we got just
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 8:57 p.m. for the purpose of considering the appointment of a public official.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
And as mentioned, we're going to recess into executive session, and then when we come back out, we'll reconvene and make a decision. So we're in recess. It took longer than we anticipated. Just to let you know, in our deliberations, of course, we go through all the candidates' information, discuss the interview process, and try to come up with a consensus among council. Because we want to be a unified group, and we try to make a determination based upon everybody's opinions and come up with an opinion that is agreeable to all members of council, as everybody has differing opinions on councils, because there's 6 of us up here and soon to be 7, so we'll all have differing opinions. So with that being said, after our deliberations, and I don't know how long did it take us, this was probably one of the longer ones that we've ever had. No offense, Eric, on that. But through our deliberations, we came with a consensus to appoint Robert Starcher to the fill the Ward 1 vacancy seat. That's it. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Do we have to vote?
Oh, we got to vote. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President.
I will make a motion to appoint Robert Starcher to the vacant Ward 1 council seat.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll? Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
And we need to
And thank you.
adjourn.
We have to adjourn too?
Yep.
We never adjourn. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned officially.